Masters of Modern. I'm your host, Alex Kessler, here with my co-host, Ben, the no longer world champion of trivia, boss maybe of nothing, Bateman.
Trying to take some jabs at me there, but I am happy to be here. I'm happy to be talking Magic: The Gathering with you. It's funny when we do these episodes that are just the two of us hanging out, just talking Magic. It strangely enough, they feel a little more rare because it's a bigger crew and we swap in and out, and sometimes there's a guest. But just the old Kessler and Bateman just talking Magic, that's not as common as it used to be, as it once was. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to be back. Talking spoilers today.
It's 2021. We're talking spoilers and previews. So the basically the layout's going to be. I guess we could start at the front with the. No, let's talk previews. At the end of the episode, we'll be talking about leaks that happened, and our thoughts on leaks in general, and content creators' responsibilities on discussing them or not discussing them, and how to go about it. There's going to be a whole conversation about that. We're going to go over all the cards that have been shown so far. Now, this is coming out next week, which is this week for all of you, and preview started last Thursday for all of y'all, and so we are recording this before previews have started on Tuesday. So we have all of the stuff that was released up to Tuesday night. We did do a live stream that is up on the YouTube channel of us reacting to the first day of previews and all the announcements on Thursday. So make sure once you're done with this to go check that out. And as we get into this week, we will be diving into the world of all the cards shown, some of the mechanics that we've seen. When we get to, I guess we can talk about the mechanics. Because we now know what the mechanics are using the power of time travel and the power of leaks. So we will discuss the things that we know that are in the set, and if they're not in the set and these leaks are fake and we find out that all that is not true, then haha on us, and you guys get to laugh at us in the comments. But so my understanding is modal dual face cards are back. We have the lands previewed of those. Snow is back.
Yes,
the Modern Horizons kind of hinted that this would be coming. We'll have more options for snow lands in the world of Modern, which is going to be really hyped, and more cards to go with that snow theme. A mechanic called Boast. Boast is boast and a cost, and then you may activate this ability only if a creature attacked this turn, and only once each turn. So it's like once you attack with something, creatures gain activated abilities that let you activate them once per turn. Changelings are back, so the mechanic Changeling. So Shapeshifters and the ability that these count as any creature type in existence. Something to keep in mind is that you can't mutate onto a Changeling creature.
Because it is human, technically.
It is a human. We also have a mechanic called Foretell, which is, let me find the card. Foretell is, it's Foretell and then a cost. Foretell, during your turn, you may pay 2 and exile that card from your hand, face down, cast it later. Cast it on a later turn for its Foretell cost. So the idea being, it's kind of like Morph a little bit, where you get to place a face down card for a very inexpensive amount that's like a mystery card, and then you're able to from that zone cast it for a different cost than its normal converted mana cost. So
like a lower cost sort of thing. So it's kind of like you're paying a higher cost in 2 parts to get the value.
Depends. We don't know. We have 2 cards where the word Foretell is used. One is a leaked card that we will talk towards in the leak section, and we can get a little bit into that. And then the second one is a commander from the Precon commander deck that says the first card you foretell each turn costs 0. So that two costs would just cost 0. So you get to put a card from your hand into exile. It costs 0. It's kind of feels a little like fixed morph or fixed trap cards, right? Where like those. Like trap cards had to be in your hand, and there had to be like a weird situation to happen for it to be a surprise. And morph cards, which are like honestly better versions of traps, have a lot of rules baggage attached to them. A face down creature in play has to be a 2/2, and that will never change for the rest of Magic. It's like so ingrained with how those cards work that they can't change it. Right. This allows them to play around in a different way in that space. You now have the ability to do cool stuff. So my thought is that there's going to be some basic stuff that just like lets you get a discount, some stuff that lets you split, like say it's a 5 mana card, and then you can foretell it for 2 and then foretell it for 4 later. So you overall are paying more for it, but the turn you play it, you get to play it for a less cost, right? So like you're like spending 2 mana early in a time that you would be able to just spend mana to on a later turn be able to cast it for cheaper than it normally would cost. But I think a lot of them it's going to be like your foretell cost is way less than its normal cost. You'll have like counter spell.
Oh, interesting. So kind of like it kind of they play in some ways a little bit like the possibility what secrets do in Hearthstone. Is that what those are called? Secrets?
I think exactly is how I think they're going to work. Or traps. I don't Hearthstone I haven't played in a long time. But like basically like 2 mana, hide a card. Then later that could be a counter spell. So that counter spell could be, and maybe that counter spell cost, if it's in the foretell zone, would cost 2 to cast. Right. Versus if it's in your hand, it's a cancel, right? Like 3 mana cancel or 2 mana to exile it, and then as long as it's not that turn, you can cast it to counter a spell. Let me confirm before we get too much farther. Yeah. You can cast it on a later turn, so you just can't cast it on the turn you play it. That's the one.
Okay, gotcha. It has to be a turn that is not this one, so you can't cast it face down and then pay the other half of it.
Correct. So say it's like a creature that costs 6 mana, but then you can foretell it and then play it for 3 mana. Right, as its foretell cost, you can't pay 5 mana on your turn just to like foretell it and cast it. You have to pay 2 and then wait till your next turn and then pay 3.
Is foretell always is 2 always the cost of foretell?
Yeah, so it's like morph, or no matter what, if you're playing a morph card, it costs 3, and that way you like keep the secret and you don't have to show what you're doing, and then you have to reveal it. Now my guess is it'll be similar to morph where you get a game loss or whatever if you don't reveal every card at the end of the game.
Got it.
So you can't do like shenanigans where like say I have a card that Hellbent, like I can't like Hellbent myself on purpose.
Got it. But you do mention Hellbent though, which is an interesting part of this whole equation, which is, another piece of it that I think is really interesting is this is another way to get cards out of your hand. So when they're on the battlefield face down, what do they exist as? Do they exist as anything?
No, they're in exile. They're face down exiled cards. So they don't affect the battlefield. That's where they're different from morph. They're not like a thing you can interact with.
Well, those sound cool. I like foretell. That sounds like a nice sort of variable mechanic that should work nicely. Play well in all formats. I look forward to that.
Yeah. So foretell's back, snow's back. For those who don't know, snow is a mechanic where basically it's like the 6th color in Magic, or the 7th color if you count Wingding, or the Eldrazi colorless mana symbol, where you can, or 8th if you count energy, but snow has been here first. So snow is literally the 6th color in Magic in the sense that
Snow's OG.
Things are snow. It's a super type, kind of like legendary, and also. If you have a land that is a snow land, when you tap it, the mana that it produces is snow mana. So and that mana can be used to cast things with a snow symbol in its mana cost. So there are literal.
You know what I want? I need some snow wastes in my life. At some point I need some snow wastes.
That would be sweet.
Just the wastes covered in snow. God, think of the beasts that would exist there.
Theoretically possible in this set, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So snow's back, and so that has, interesting enough, with Modern Horizons, snow became a very dominant force. Now that was off of the back of the artifact that no longer is a thing.
The artifact that is no longer a thing.
It's banned in Modern. 1 mana, draw a card, tap it to make any color. Why can't I remember what this card is called?
Yes. Archam's Astrolabe.
Yeah. As soon as things go on the ban list, my brain, they leave. Arkham Astrolabe, obviously, like blew snow apart in Modern. But a lot of those snow things, like that's one thing I would pay attention to is like cool stuff to keep an eye on. Just because like Dead of Winter or On Thin Ice are two two cards that are both like very strong, but like need a snow theme to be doing really well. Thermopod, which is it's a 5 mana. It is one of the few sack outlet creatures in red, so it's sweet.
Yes.
But, Thermopod, the only 2 free sack outlets in red that I know of that are creatures, so you can tutor for them with creature tutors, are Thermopod and the Dragon Shaman from Modern Horizons. The 3-drop, you can sacrifice a creature to turn it into a 5/5 dragon or a 4/4 dragon. I think we hit on the main mechanics between flip cards, foretell, snow, changelings, and the attacky raid, the raid variant. And the one other thing that is in the set though is tribal. Like there's a big tribal theme in the set though. So based on what we've seen so far, and obviously anytime Changeling is involved in a set, tribal kind of comes involved. We have giant tribal, we have berserker tribal, we have dwarf tribal, we have angel tribal is a big part of it, and we have elf tribal. I don't think so like it's like blue red giants, red white dwarves, and they all are enemy colored, which is cool. So we don't know if there's other tribal mechanics in the allied color combos, but red blue giants, blue green changelings, that might be different. Changelings might be in every color. We just don't know what the blue green mechanic is. Blue green changelings, green black elves, black white angels, and white red dwarves are the 5 like tribes, which like has a cool Lorwyn feel to me. Like Changeling is back in giants.
Yeah, or exactly. Red, white giants, changelings. I mean, I definitely see some. Some similarities between there. I was looking up. Isn't there? What's that? Is there a giant card, like a tribal giant card? What's it called? Like Crush Underfoot or something like that? Does that sound right?
Sure.
It's like
it sounds like a giant card to me.
Here it is. Choose a giant creature you control. It deals damage equal to its power to target creature. It's a tribal instant giant for 2 mana for red
nice.
1.
Okay. Well, there's also there's the Stormbreak giant that like as it enters do 1 damage for every giant you control to every creature your opponent controls, and there's a lot of really cool giant cards.
That card got reprinted in Modern Masters 1, and that was a solid first pick.
There is one mechanic I missed. Sagas are back. Now they're tertiary, and vehicles are back, right? Like these are now, they feel really tertiary, right? They feel more in the world of like, if they can bring them back, they will. Yeah. Like the same way like planes. They're not as prevalent as, it's not like every set has to have a planeswalker. Every set doesn't have to have a saga, but like at this point, I feel like sagas, anytime we do a return to a set or a set that has like a deep story they need to tell, we're going to get sagas. And then vehicles are, anytime it makes sense for vehicles, they come back. So both of those are back as well. So that's kind of like, and like, how do you feel about sagas? I know the collective internet's thought on them, but I'd love to actually get, I don't know if I've ever talked to you about like, now that we've played with sagas for a couple sets, where you're at on them.
I like sagas. They're another moving piece of the game every turn that doesn't require any continued resource, which is nice. One thing in Magic that I like is just anytime there's like an extra moving piece on my turn. So like a valuable thing I get on my upkeep, a cool thing end of turn, like just like some extra bell or whistle that makes my turn feel like I'm doing more. And so sagas, while ultimately the value of the card is essentially balanced, like for this price, you're going to get this total value. It can be a higher total value for that price because it takes 3 turns to get it. I still think that's pretty fun on the whole. They can be a little slow. I think it's competitive cards. They only really work particularly well in one type of deck, one style of deck. It's very, very hard to have. I think there are a few of them that maybe have more practical applications, but like I think that in general, the best of them tend to be in mid-range and control decks. I think there's not that many that work super, super well in like really aggressive or like really tight decks.
Well, there's the one that makes tokens, or the ones that puts like plus, like there's been some like aggressive Lord-esque sagas in the past. I mean,
yeah, the night one. I mean, the Benalia. What the hell is it called? The 3-mana one, the white one. It was like the big card in standard. That card's great. It's kind of aggressive. I mean, it is kind of aggressive. It's more just like a mid-range creature card, though. It's like a 3-mana card that gives you a 2/2, then another 2/2, and then an anthem. So it's not like you know what I'm saying? No, that doesn't make sense.
Well, and some of it's how they made them, right? Like we're getting some of these that the one that isn't a leak is more on the like exile the top 4 cards of your library, so you like draw a bunch of cards in red white, which is kind of interesting. I don't know. Yeah, like they aren't a creature that's attacking the turn they come into play, but that's not true of necessarily creatures. They've been really versatile to me. I don't know. I think they're really cool. I think they're like really versatile. I like that they like take less thought than a planeswalker on both ends. Right?
Yeah,
it's not like a. I have to think if I'm going to attack it. I think they give the ability for one of the reasons I think they like it is they give like planeswalker feels to gameplay, which they like, but without the like, they don't draw the game out the same way because they're not built in fogs. And they also aren't built in value machines the way planeswalkers are, so you don't have to deal with them. They are going to get you these 4 things over 4 turns, right? Or 3 turns or whatever, but it's not like planeswalkers or where like I have to attack it, and if I don't, they're going to win. Like there's not that same the game becomes about them feature.
And I think the difference is, and why I say that they feel more like, in general, the game plan of a saga is to be like a mid-range card, is because if I top deck a Planeswalker and it's late in the game and we're getting into our final turns and I play it, I have that same exact effect that I get out of most any saga, which is that the front side, for the cost that it costs, the minus essentially on a Planeswalker, it will be a slightly more expensive version of that effect that you'd get if it was just a single card. Almost 100% of the time, I would say. Like, some of the time it's not, but almost always the Planeswalker version is like, this is an expensive draw a card or an expensive explore or something like that, you know? And I think what's different about that is with the Planeswalker, that if you play it, if they don't attack it and you can survive, within a few turns, it'll probably win you the game. A lot of them do. Many of them do. Sagas, by the time it gets to the third thing, they don't really win you the game usually. It's just a good effect. Like, it's usually just a powerful effect.
Sure.
And so I think that's where it's like the impact of drawing one late in the game is just the best case scenario out of this is that 2 turns from the time I play this, something pretty good's going to happen, as opposed to like, if I can figure out a way to make them attack this Planeswalker or protect this Planeswalker, it might just single-handedly win me the game.
Right. That's fair.
And that's where one feels kind of like a win con and one feels like a mid-range card.
Sure. Like, they're more value engine-y. That's fair.
Yeah, they're super value engine-y, which I think is awesome. It's just they don't play as well. If I need to draw a lightning bolt because I need to deal 3 damage for 1 mana in the deck that I need, there's not a saga that is going to get me that kind of rate for that value, because they can't be. They can't be designed that way. Right. They have to give you 3 turns of value, not 1 turn of value.
Yeah. So let's talk about some of the cards that are out, and we're not going to talk about everything that was previewed at this point. Just some of the fun ones that are hyped. And we're going to start first. We're going to start with the lands, because I think this is the easiest one to get past. And so those who don't know, and if you're tuning in, this is the MMcast podcast. I am your host, Alex Kessler. This is Ben Bateman. We're talking about Kaldheim, and we're talking about the cards that were previewed before. We record these a week in advance, so we're talking about all of the cards that were previewed, and then there'll be a third or fourth video that talks about the leaked cards later. If you look, we just kind of talked about all of the mechanics and all of the stuff that's coming back in the set and how hyped we are, so we're really excited. This is all about Kaldheim, and we're talking about the cards that were officially previewed up to this point. Obviously, this whole set has started previewing last Thursday. We did an episode live stream on Thursday. Definitely go check that out. And it was a blast. And then also, please make sure check out our Patreon. Everyone listening, this was the reason the podcast happens. One of the reasons we're able to do these cool mini videos once a week is patrons helping it make it happen. If you join our Patreon at $5 tier or more, you get access to the raw feed. So there's a bonus like 20 minutes of content, 10 minutes for sure guaranteed at the beginning of the episode, plus all of the weird mistakes or disagreements or us looking up a card or us talking about random stuff, or if we swear. All of that's in the raw feed version of the episode. Hosted on Patreon. So definitely go check that out. Yeah, and make sure to like and hit that subscribe button right there. Hit the like button and comment. I want to know, of all the new cards that we're not going to talk about today, what card are you most excited by? That's the thing I want to know the most, is like, of the new cards, and making sure, like, stuff that we're missing that we haven't talked about yet, which cards do you want us to make sure we talk about in future review episodes? So first off, we're going to talk about those lands. Flip lands, we're getting red, black, blue, white, black, green, and blue, green. So blue, green has one of the best mana fixing lands now for it, which is bad for everyone. And blue, white, and black, green, 2 of my favorite color combos of all time, have both also gotten some spicy lands available to them. And red, black.
These are great lands. They're some of my favorite lands ever printed, I have to be honest with you. I think if I was going to do the ranking of all-time dual lands, I have to say that this cycle is probably in my top 5. Okay. It feels like it's probably right at the end of that, right around the 4th or 5th slot, because it's basically just dual lands, shock lands, probably pain lands, I guess, maybe, because they have access to like colorless as well. They're probably right in there. I like fast lands a lot. I'm a big fan of fast lands. Say what?
Not fetch lands?
Yes, okay. If fetch lands are a dual land, sure, but it feels like fetch lands they don't produce a color; they search for something else.
Sure.
But yes, you're correct. Fetch lands are number 2 behind just regular duels. But that right at the end of that list, I think would be these. I think that these and fast lands are like the same category, right? They're like probably a little better than fast lands in most cases.
Yeah, I think I'd have these in my top 5. I think I wouldn't have fast lands or pain lands. I would have man lands, or the creature lands. So the one thing that is interesting, and speaking of fast lands, because I think that is where these are most compared to, as just like extremely powerful non-fetch based aggro lands, is the red-black one here is actually really important. Like the red-black fast land is by far the most expensive and most valuable of those lands, just because it plays in so many combo decks that black red is now very good in, as well as aggressive decks. And I think Blightstep Pathway is right on line with that world. I think Blightstep Pathway is like a really important card that'll see a lot of play. Darkboar Pathway is another, Jund in Modern. And then I've like often explained the reasons that enemy colored dual lands are really important.
Yeah, like there's a lot less good ones.
In Commander, especially where you have so much more limited options, having the ability to just increase how many good dual lands you have access to is like not something to sneeze at. And so black, green, and blue, green getting additional. Now, these are the colors that need them the least in the enemy color family because they're green. So you have like every mana fixing card ever printed.
Ever in the history of Magic, yeah.
Yep, available to you. But other than that, I think always appreciated. There's like they're also just like really pretty. I love the full art versions of all these.
Oh, they're gorgeous. They're absolutely stunning. These the showcase versions at the bottom there.
And this is they've actually, it's one of the few secret layers they've promised will come out next year. They're going to release a secret layer that has all 10, but it's alternate versions of each of the artwork. Wow. So instead of getting you'll get the 4 pathways on Zendikar. So you'll get the blue-green pathway, the blue-white, the green-black, and the red-black pathways on Zendikar. And then you'll get the 6 pathways from Zendikar on Kaldheim. After those lands, let's do this artifact. Pyre of Heroes. It's an artifact. It costs 2. You can pay 2 mana and tap it, sacrifice a creature, search your library for a creature card that shares a creature type with the sacrificed creature and has equal mana cost equal to 1, plus that creature's converted mana cost. Put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library, activate the ability only anytime you can cast a sorcery. Birthing Pod is back, baby! I'm so hyped. I'm so hyped by this card.
It's crazy, right? It's not actually... Is it even worse than Birthing Pod?
It's worse because you can't like use Kitchen Finks to get you can't use creature type oof to get anything relevant. The Goblin's a thing though. Like the Goblin legitimately finds dope things. I think I like found a few different
the black persist Goblin you're saying?
Yeah.
Red Cap you mean?
Red Cap works. Yeah. There are other good goblins. Like you can do the Red Cap plus the 1-drop goblin, like the Goblin combo that lets you go infinite with Red Cap. I forget what it is. Whatever, but yes, there are like shenanigans you can do in goblins. You can also use Red Cap to get Kiki Jiki to do some shenanigans, right? There's like still cool stuff you can do. I posted a bunch of lists at some point of just like different cool ways you can go infinite with this card. I wonder if I can find them on my phone. It's not better than Birthing Pod because it can't be any creature, right? That's such a power level leap, and also tapping
only costs 2 though. It only costs 2 to get onto the battlefield.
But it costs 2 mana to tap it when Birthing Pod technically only cost 1.
Yeah, true. It's really good though. It's really cool. I mean, hopefully it's a less of a problem card. We've seen variations on this effect, whether it's in search abilities or it's permanents that do it repeatedly. I hope it's not an issue. It'd be a bummer for this card to get banned. But I definitely think it's super cool, and I'm excited to be able to build with it, especially because it's going to be legal in Modern.
I'm like very hyped. I definitely got a bunch of cool cards that like work with it. Let me find them. Well, although the zombies also is a really good one. There's like a bunch of cool zombie stuff you can do with it.
Yeah, that's for sure true.
For sure. And then So it was Putrid Goblin is a goblin that has persist. It's another one, and it is a zombie that has persist.
That's what I thought you were talking about in the first place when you said the persist goblin for some reason, even though Red Cap's way more famous.
Safehold Elite, also an elf with persist. You have Butchered Ghoul, who's a zombie with Undying, and you have Geralf's Messenger, who has Undying, and obviously Gravecrawler. So you have all these like really good sack outlets. You have the Changeling, like Unsettled Mariner, the blue-white one. That's like really good and that can get any creature. Shapeshifter, which is the Shapeshifter Gravedigger for Modern Horizons, is also insane with it because you can sack a creature, sack a 3-drop, get Graveshifter, and then grab the 3-drop you sacked to it back to your hand. There's just like a lot of cool stuff. You have like in standard, you have like the Pack Beast for like all the party mechanics. So you can get like any one of those. Yeah, there's just like a lot of cool shapeshiftery party based things that like you can do with this card. There's even like there's that 1-drop artifact Shapeshifter, right? So like the universal automaton, like that's also just like really good. So I do think there's just like a lot of cool stuff you can do with this card, and there's some good cards that go with it. Plus they're printing more Shapeshifters, right? That's like one of the other mechanics.
And that's really cool. I mean, I've always liked changelings a lot. I think that more shapeshifters, like, I think that's great.
Yep. Next card, speaking of which, because we're just going to go in not reverse order exactly, but Realm Walker. 2 green shapeshifter changeling. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast creature spells of the chosen type from the top of your library. So when it enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type. Say elf.
This card's big game. This card is big game. I honestly, I mean, this is my thoughts. When I look at it, my thought is a 2/3 for 3 is a little expensive for the kind of effect that would make this just like turbo. As a pure value engine, not expensive at all. Pure value engine, this is just going to slot in and make a lot of creature decks just money. Like, this would be just really good. Mm-hmm. In the sense of, like, this is a card that you'll be able to sort of go infinite with on some level. Like, it's going to create like an infinite elves deck or something. Maybe it's a little bit expensive to get that chain going when there are so many good options in green, like that deck.
It's really good with the elf that for 1, it's like 1, and then you can tap 3 elves to make 3 green mana.
Yeah.
Because then you can, like, if you play 3 mana and then you're able to chain enough elves off the top of your deck to then have that start over again, you can get it. It has a little bit of a, like, every time you play a creature, draw a card effect. Like, that's what it in some ways says, other than the lands in your deck.
Correct.
And just as a value card, like, playing one of these in your deck in an elf deck that you can tutor for the late game is also just, like, really, really good. I think this card is, like, very strong. And then obviously in Commander and stuff, it's, like, insane.
I'm planning on putting this into my blue-green Merfolk deck in Highlander as one of the rare cards that I would play of 3 mana, especially one of the rare green cards in that deck. But I definitely think that this fits into that deck. It's such a good, I don't run out of steam type of card.
Yeah, like dinosaurs. Every, like, dinosaur deck ever created, like, in Commander, plays this card. You definitely you play it there. I would play it in Bant Spirits maybe as a spirit that can hit with Collected. Like, because the fact that Collected Company can hit this card is, like, a big part of its game, right? Like,
yeah, true.
Like, that's like a big deal. And just, like, yeah, that's really good. I really like humans. Lands, this is a human. Remember, this is a human.
Yeah, with fetch lands, this card is going to be really good as well. Like, being able to reset the top of your library over and over again. Yeah, I think this card's great. It's probably one of my favorites in the set so far.
Next card, speaking of dope cards that broke the internet for a day, we have Toski, Bearer of Secrets. 3 and a green, legendary creature, squirrel, 1/1. This spell cannot be countered. This squirrel is indestructible, and Toski, Bearer of the Secrets, attacks each combat if able. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. Now, this is a reference to a direct Norse myth. There's like a god squirrel that lives, like, in the god tree that, like, collects stories and is, like, pretty angry. Apparently. Now there was a huge debate, and I wonder where you fall on this. So people don't think this is a green card. People were mad that green has the ability to just give combat damage to to every creature, right? Like that they felt was like either a blue-green ability or a blue ability. I think this is totally green. I think like a 4 mana legendary 1/1 that, like, draws you cards as a cool card draw engine is, like, good, but not backbreaking. And, like, people were, like, really mad about, like, there was, like, a huge amount of, like, oh, green gets another ability from blue.
Green's had a bunch of this effect exist now for a while. Keen Sense, which was the color shifted version of Curiosity, was all the way back in Planar Chaos. That kind of opened the door for this effect. You had that Hunter's Insight card, I think that was called. Or no. The one green card that was, like, up to 2 target creatures each draw you a card when they deal damage this turn.
Warrior's Lesson from Theros. I actually have I have almost every green creature card that's ever let you do damage. So you have this.
Plus you have, like, Orin Viper. You have, I mean, there's like there's a bunch of cards in that mold that green has that I don't actually think this is ungreen.
And even in not Theros. What's the set with Eldraine? Eldraine, there was the Keeper of Fables, which is whenever 1 or more non-human creatures deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So, like, even the Lord version of this has existed already. Yeah, outside of that controversy, I think it's good. I think it's like standard, especially. I think Commander decks are going to be a bunch of people that play like it'll be like what's his face, Eldrick, the blue-green legend. That, like, those decks also became, like, obnoxious at one point, where it's like, okay, we get it. You found every unblockable green creature and a bunch of token makers, and you draw your whole deck really quickly. Great, but
I mean, that's the other. Yeah, I guess it has blue in it, and so does Cold-Eyed Selkie. But yeah, there's a lot of green ones that don't have any other color that do that.
Oh, there's Odheim, whatever, the elf that's like CDH playable because it's like a Death Toucher that draws a card when it does damage to a player. And so yeah, I think this is totally a green ability. I disagree with the internet, but I wanted to get your read on it. Magda, Brazen Outlaw, 1 and a red, 2/1 legendary creature, Dwarf Berserker. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token, sacrifice 5 treasure tokens, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, and put that card on the battlefield, then shuffle your library.
This card is freaking bonkers, dude. This card is one of the this is probably so far of what we've talked about. This feels even more busted than the Birthing Pod. This feels like the most unfair card in the set so far because I literally look at this card and I go, if I'm playing this next to Dockside Extortionist and I'm doing that in Commander, like in the same deck, it's just like game over, right? Like. It's so good.
There's a really cool Mardu treasure commander deck that like has been in my head where it's playing like Dockside, it's playing this, it's playing the like Revel in Riches, which is the like you win the game card or whatever. That it can play the like the guy that whenever a creature dies, make a treasure. You can play the Tithe. What's it called? The Orzhov card. Tithe. It's the whenever Smothering Tithe. And like this, and you can sneak out like you can put Blightsteel Colossus and play with this thing. You can put World Gorder Dragon into play with this thing. Like Dragon Indoor Artifact are big boys.
I mean, yeah, there's exactly. Like it's just, and the fact it's not like sacrifice Magda. It's sacrifice 5 treasures at instant speed and do it. Like if you have a lot of treasures on the battlefield in a game of Commander, for instance, and you just play Dockside and you're like, my 13 treasures that I just got off of the board, I will wait till it's advantageous on your turn and I'll put a Blightsteel Colossus and a giant Hellkite that wraths your whole board into play.
Right.
Yeah. It does, all for the value of these treasures.
It does insane things. And there's alternate artwork too that's like really, really cool. Also for Trotsky. Actually, every card we've talked about so far, there's either full art or like alternate art, and it's that like cool knotted Celtic knot drawing based style artwork that looks really cool. Yes, this card is also insane. We have not hit a not banger yet, which maybe we will now. Showdown of the Scalds, 2 red-white enchantment saga. Step 1, exile the top 4 cards of your library until the end of your next turn. You may play those cards. 2 mana. Step 2, whenever you cast a spell this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Step 3, whenever you cast this spell, a spell this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. So I actually think this card is better than people are giving it credit. It's a Boros card that draws you 4 cards, which is not a thing that Boros gets very often.
Kind of. I think it's sweet. Cards like this, you don't really want to play on turn 4 unless you have ramped into turn 4.
No,
with like
it's until your next end step. Not that.
No, I know that. No, I know, but you ultimately, because it's 4 cards, there's a decent chance you hit 2 lands. So you don't really want to play it necessarily on a turn that you can't play a land with it.
Sure, you should play it on turn 5.
Yeah, you'd like to play it on turn 5, just because otherwise it's possibly draw 3 instead of draw 2, or draw 4. And then the second part of it is whenever you cast a spell this turn, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. I mean, kind of good. Like it's got some value. It's just ultimately like. What you're saying is that it's a Boros card that draws you potentially up to 4 cards for 4 mana, which is very good. Mm-hmm. If it works that you can cast all of them and it doesn't affect the game plan of what else is in your hand, et cetera, et cetera. So I think it's fine. I think it's not special, but it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if it's special, but I do think like this is an effect that these colors normally do not get very much out of, and it's not that hard to take advantage of it. Like getting this until the next turn, and the second 2 parts of the story are like kind of irrelevant based on how good the first half is for this color combo, and then it's not irrelevant, right? Putting +1/+1 counters for every spell you cast can do some kind of shenanigansy things, and you can take advantage of it. I don't know. I think it's powerful. I think it's underrated. I don't know if it's definitely not as good as the other ones. That's why I said we have like the next card is maybe a stinker, but I think it is underrated. So Rolf, Realm Eater, 1 green-black legendary creature, wolf, 3/3. Whenever a permanent you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Seraph, Realm Eater. At the beginning of your upkeep, if Sir Rolf has one or more +1/+1 counters on it, you may remove all of them. If you do, exile each other non-land permanent with converted mana costs less than or equal to the number of counters removed this way. I never want to play against this card in Commander. It's just like all board wipe, exile board wipes all the time. But this is Pernicious Deed on a Wolfy boy.
Wolf.
Yeah.
Yeah, this card's really good. It's not just, it doesn't wipe just just theirs. It wipes everybody, right?
Yeah, it's all. It's not itself though. It stays in play. So every turn it restarts that process if you would like.
Other non-land permanent with converted cost equal to. Wow, that's really good. That's really, 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 really good. You know, that's like you just in black green too. It's like you flank this card with all of the all the good things. You know, all the abrupt decays and the maelstrom pulses and the assassin's trophies of the world, and you just have so much heat.
Right, like not to mention just. Yeah, like you almost want to make like a like turn lands into creatures style deck that just like has this thing and as the like your lands are your threats and you have this thing and you have spells. And good luck everyone else ever casting a thing again.
Hearthstone's really obnoxious to play against, but pretty cool.
Yeah. I do think the fact that it does exile your stuff does mean like you can't do much on your side even, right? You can't build very much without putting a lot of work into it. And it's exile, so you can't like break it with indestructible or hexproof or whatever. So you have to play around it specifically, but I think there's some cool things you could do. And making lands, like you doing stuff like what Nissa does, where it like makes a land into a creature or other things, is the way to do it. Next we have Kaya the Inexorable. 3 white-black legendary planeswalker Kaya comes in with 5 loyalty. +1, put a ghost form counter on up to 1 target non-token creature. It gains when this creature dies or is put into exile, return it to its owner's hand and create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. -3, exile target non-land permanent. -7, you get an emblem with at the beginning of your upkeep. You may cast a legendary spell from your hand, from your graveyard, or from among cards you own in exile without paying its mana cost. So. Wow. One cool thing, it does work with Foretold, right? Like this lets you cast Foretold cards for free, but also the emblem does, which I think is like something cute that I didn't realize until now because it was previewed before Foretold was previewed. But it's 5 mana Terminate, right? Not Terminate. It's 5 mana Vindicate. Well,
it's not Vindicate because Vindicate is land, right? So it's actually like Utter End, basically. Yeah,
without the life loss. So just 5 exile any non-land permanent for 5 mana is like a card that would have seen play in other formats, right?
Yeah.
It's her plus is fine. It does protect a creature in a cool way. You get a cool 1/1 spirit out of it. You get to get that creature back to your hand. It lets you abuse ETB triggers in a fun way. So there's cool things that it does.
But I mean, the ultimate being 7 and it coming down on 5 to begin with means the turn it comes into play, it goes to 6. You're already dangerously close to ultimate zone pretty fast with this card. And I think the idea that if you draw this card in a situation like in Standard, for instance, where you would need it, that it does have Utter End on it for 5 mana is pretty strong. Yeah, that I think if not, the fact that you're going to plus it, minus it, like 2 turns after you play it, it's going to go to 6, going to go to 7, then minus. You will ult this 2 turns after you play it. That's pretty good. It's pretty good.
And I think just like think of how much what's it called saw play or is seeing play. Elsbeth Conquers Death, right? Like the ability to play a 5-drop permanent that gains you value that immediately kills a thing is going to see play. And this is the best. This is one of the best. Like because this does follow suit in the like 5 mana planeswalker that pluses the draw you a card and minuses the kill a thing and then ultimates the win the game, right? Like that, like there's like a Ralzeric version of that. Like every planeswalker has that card in print. And this is another one in a long line of them. The cool one about this is I think this is the best -3 on a 5 mana planeswalker ever printed. As far as the best kill spell, right? It's like just blatant. Maybe Ugin at 6 mana, but that's a 6 mana card. Karn is 7 mana to do this effect. So like. Just having unconditional exile a permanent, I excluding lands, I know. Exile a non-land permanent is like an insane ability by itself.
Yeah.
For standard.
Yeah,
and I think
powerful.
in modern, I think it's less likely to see play. In commander, it's just another good thing in like Mardu or Esper or Mardu, Esper, Black White Aristocrat decks, which exist. And Kaya's dope. I love Kaya as a character. Like Ghost Assassin is like really, really sweet. And like the splash art with her with like ghost axes.
Yeah.
Is like really cool. The last pack bet card that has been shown is Halvar, God of the Battle. 2 white, 4/4, legendary creature god. Creatures you control that are enchanted or equipped have double strike. At the beginning of each combat, you may attach target aura or equipment attached to a creature you control to target creature you control. And then the backside is Sword of the Realms, 1 and a white, equipment, legendary artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has vigilance. Whenever equipped creature dies, return it to its owner's hand. Equip 1 and a white. So 2 things with this card. One thing is like on both sides, you get rid of the legendary rule. Like you always, like you can have both of these in play and it's not an issue. So that's pretty sweet. Sword of the Realms is the first equipment you can have in your command zone.
That's interesting.
So you can cast Sword of the Realms from the command zone. So when I first saw it, it's like, oh man, I don't know if I want just like another equipment themed white card as my commander. And then I realized that, oh no, I could have Sword of the Realms be my commander. And I could have that be the mono white commander that I'm going to build. And I'm like very, very, very close to pulling that trigger. It's also cool because if in other formats, if you draw both halves, they work really well together, right? Like you give him double strike, you have a 6/4 double strike vigilance that when it dies, return it to your hand. So it's like not a thing to lap at.
I really want to get a foil version of this card because the backside of it, the sword version, not the showcase version, but the regular one in foil seems like it would be so epic. It's like freaking Final Fantasy sword. Look at that thing.
Yep.
Looks incredible.
This has been a production of Time Traveler Media, sending podcasts into the future.